Hey friends, it's Mrs. Walker. For our lesson today, we're going to be measuring objects using tiles. So our learning goal for today says, I can use the iteration of tiles to measure objects. Now, friends, remember with iteration, we learned about this back earlier in the year. It's just taking objects. So let's say if I have a square tile, I'm going to put down one square tile, and then I'm going to move it and line it up right next to it and keep measuring. And then I'm going to move it right next to the next one and measure. But I'm using the same tile over and over and over again. We're not using like 10 tiles to measure something. Okay, but don't worry, we're going to talk more about it during the lesson. So the materials that you'll need for this lesson are just your dry erase board, and you'll need 1-inch tile. So one-inch tile. Now, if you don't have an inch tile like that or a square tile, you can use maybe like a Lego. I think the Lego blocks that are about like those three, like with the 3 parts on them, are about an inch. Okay, so it's not going to be exact, but it'll be pretty close. A quarter is also about an inch, so you can use that to measure with as well. It just might be a little bit trickier because the edges are not flat, but you can definitely use a quarter if you don't have anything else. Okay, so we're going to start with our application problem. So Frances is moving the furniture in her bedroom. She wants to move the bookcase to the space between her bed and the wall, but she's not sure if it will fit. What could Frances what could Frances use as a measurement tool if she doesn't have a ruler? And how could she use it? What do you guys think? Well, maybe, just maybe she could use a book or an object that she has at home, right? So she could put the book down at the wall and then mark at the end of the book, maybe like with her finger, and then move that same book on the other side of her finger, right? Or where her finger is, and then mark the end again until she reaches the bed. And then she could do that to find out the measurement of the bookcase as well to see if there is the same amount of space or enough space to make sure that it will fit. So does the size of the book matter? No, it doesn't. However, she has to use the same size book to measure the bookcase and the space between the wall and her bed. Okay, she can't use one book, like a Magic Treehouse book, for measuring from the wall to the bed, and she can't then use like a Harry Potter book from in the bookcase to find out how long the bookcase is. They have to be the same size. So remember, if she uses a small book, she'll have to move it a lot more times. If she uses a larger book, she'll cover the space faster. So you're going to show your thinking on your dry erase board or on a piece of paper using pictures, numbers, or words. So you kind of have to map out her room and like where would her bed be, and then where would the bookcase be to see if there's enough space in between the walls. So remember, it doesn't have to be a perfect drawing. Just give it a quick sketch. So pause the video, do that, and then click play when you're ready to go over it together. All right, friends, pause if you need more time. All right, so here's an example that I came up with. Okay, so we have her bed and we have the bookcase, right? So from the wall to the bed, looks like there's 4 books, and the bookcase looks like it's 5 books wide. So the description says Frances can put the book at one end of the bookcase and mark where the book ends, right? And then she moves the book forward so it's right on the mark. She keeps doing that to find the total length, and then she does that between the wall and the bed. And then when she does that, she notices that it won't fit because there's not enough space to fit the bookcase because it needs 5 books, and she only has space from the wall to the bed of 4 books. All right, so earlier this year we used centimeter cubes. How did we use centimeter cubes? What did we use them for? Yeah, we used it to measure things. So sometimes we used more than one, and sometimes we just used one to measure. When we used one, we had to use the iteration of that centimeter tile. Okay. So today we're going to look at a different unit of measure, an inch. So that's why we have this square tile. How does the size of the inch tile compare to the size of the centimeter cube? So here's your centimeter cube. How do they compare to each other? Yeah, the inch tile is bigger than the centimeter cube, right? All right, can we use the inch tile to measure the same way that we used to measure the centimeter with the centimeter cube? Yeah, sure, we can absolutely do it. The only difference is it's the size. Okay, so the inch tile is larger. So let's practice measuring with one tile. So check out how I can measure this line with just one tile. I'm going to use the iteration of this tile. So I'm going to mark my two endpoints, and then I'm going to bring in my tile. So here's my first one. I have to mark at the very end of that tile. And then I move the tile to the very next spot. And notice it's right at the same spot the last one stopped. Okay? And then I'm going to repeat that process and keep moving that tile. This is just one tile. I'm not lining up several tiles. Okay, mark it at the end, and then move the tile, and at the end it lands right there. Okay, so we can use that iteration to move the same tile over and over again to measure the line. So what do you notice about the spaces between the hash marks? So these guys right here, what do we notice about those? Yeah, they're all the same length, right? So if each tile is 1 inch, then how long is my line? So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 inches. My line is 4 inches long. So it took 4 tiles to go from the start to the end. So what happens if my line isn't exactly 4-inch tiles long? So if it's half or more of the tile, we would say it's about 5 tiles long. So it would go up. If it's a little less than half of a tile, it's about a 4-inch tile or 4-inch tiles long, and we go down. So let's measure this line. Okay, so here's my new line. I'm going to label my two endpoints, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use iteration with this one tile over and over again. Okay, so we put the tile down, we mark the end, we move the tile, we mark the end, we move the tile, right? We keep marking. Now when we get to here, we kind of pass that line, right? So let's move it down a little bit so we can see. Okay. Now, how many inch tiles is this line? It's about 5-inch tiles, right? Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. We're actually a little over halfway, so we get to count that as our 5th tile. So we say about. It's not exactly, it's about. All right, so let's measure this line. Okay, so we do our two endpoints again. We're going to take our tile. We're going to use iteration again. So we're going to use iteration of this one tile over and over and over again to see how many tiles long this is, or how many inch tiles it is. So we measured the end, move the tile, mark the end, move the tile, mark the end, move the tile. Oh, that doesn't look like that's going to be enough space for another one, does it? And I don't even think that's going to be halfway. So how many inch tiles is this line? Now this one's about 4 tiles long, right? So look, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, but we can't do the 5th, right? Because it's not even a half. So bye-bye. Okay, so this is about 4 tiles long. All right, friends, so here is what your problem set looks like. If you're working at home, you might not have some of these objects at your house. So maybe some other things that you could measure. So if you have scissors, which is the first item on the list, measure the scissors. A marker, maybe a pencil. You might not have the length of a desk or the width of a desk. So if you don't have those, you could maybe measure your remote control. You can measure a cell phone. You could measure a box of food, a book. So there's different objects that you could measure at home. But remember, you're getting one tile. If you don't have a tile, you can get a quarter or maybe that 3-part Lego block, okay? And you're moving that object. You're using iteration with that one object to measure how many there are, okay? All right, so you guys rock. You guys did awesome using the iteration of square tiles to measure objects. So please head back on over to the module to see what you need to complete for your independent practice. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to help. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye, friends!